Over the last 48 hours, multiple credible outlets have reported that the White House is backing a plan for a time-limited transitional administration in Gaza, the Gaza International Transitional Authority, the GITA, with Tony Blair slated either to chair its supervisory board or to lead it outright. The scheme is presented as a bridge between a ceasefire and a reformed Palestinian Authority taking over, with an initial headquarters likely outside Gaza. El Arish is often cited, and later entry alongside a UN-endorsed, largely Arab stabilization force. The Financial Times first framed Blair as a prospective chair. Reuters relayed the FT scoop with the caveat that it could not yet independently verify, and Israeli and UK outlets have added structure and timeline detail. Blair is a known quantity in the Gulf capitals and Washington, having served as quartet envoy from 2007 to 2015. He's maintained relationships with regional leaders and has pushed his very own day after ideas through the Tony Blair Institute, and that access is the selling point. He's also the political liability. For many Palestinians, Blair's association with the Iraq War and perceived tilt towards Israeli preferences make him a polarizing symbol, not a unifying steward. The Guardian's readout stresses that Arab buy-in hinges on a credible pathway to statehood. The model borrows from Kosovo and Timor-Leste, a top board of perhaps 7 to 10 members with at least one Palestinian figure, a professional secretariat of roughly 24, and sector commissioners for humanitarian relief, reconstruction, legal affairs, security coordination, and Palestinian Authority linkage. The blueprint speaks of a Gaza civil police, a judicial board chaired by an Arab jurist, technocratic ministries, municipal delivery, and a property rights unit to prevent dispossession during rebuilding. Think light executive with heavy oversight, tasked to prepare handover. Variants of these elements appear across The Guardian and Israeli reporting today and align with details that have circulated via Blair-linked drafts. Trump's team is pairing governance ideas with a package: a permanent ceasefire, release of remaining hostages, staged Israeli redeployment, pending arrival of a stabilization force, and no forced displacement of Gazans. Every verb there is doing heavy lifting. The Palestinian Authority's role is formally invoked but undefined in scope, and Hamas would have no role. The real hinge is Israel's consent and timing. Netanyahu has repeatedly rejected both Hamas in governance and an empowered Palestinian Authority, and he broke the last extended truce in March. If he resists a meaningful Palestinian Authority pathway, the plan's centre collapses. There are various concentric circles. There's 3 concentric circles to the legitimacy. A local centre: will Gazans accept a foreign-chaired trusteeship after nearly 2 years of devastation and foreign interference? The political psychology is obvious. Acceptance rises if it is short, concrete, and visibly improves security, food, power, water, and health. It falls if it looks like indefinite external rule with Israeli vetoes. Regional: if Arab capitals have been clear they will not underwrite security or funding unless there's a timeline to statehood. A foggy timetable or a Palestinian Authority sidelined in practice is likely to lose Saudi and Jordanian cover. And international: the UN has just endorsed a different concept, a 1-year technocratic interim that hands off a reformed Palestinian Authority after elections. If GITA looks like a 5-year glide with elastic deadlines, it will clash with that UN centre of gravity. Any transitional authority must answer 3 hard questions, though. 1. Who controls the guns inside Gaza on day 1? If the answer is no one with local legitimacy, you get rackets, not order. 2. Can an Arab-led stabilization force secure borders without becoming an occupation in another uniform? 3. How do you vet, train, and protect a civil police that is accepted by the street and not targeted as collaborators? Drafts circulating under Blair's banner speak of an international stabilization force that supports rather than substitutes for local policing. That is elegant on paper and treacherous in practice. The frame is Transitional administration pending restoration of Palestinian self-rule, not annexation, not population transfer. The plan's defenders highlight explicit prohibitions on forced displacement and a property rights unit. That matters diplomatically after earlier talk of a Gaza Riviera and ideas that would have pushed people out. The optics have shifted because the UN and rights bodies have called Gaza a site of atrocity crimes, with some using the term genocide. Any administrator will live under that cloud, so legal clarity about non-displacement and restoration of Palestinian governance is essential. Some people think this could work and some people think it could fail. Firstly, it creates one phone number for humanitarian corridors, deconflict and aid operations. It gives Arab states a vehicle to participate without immediate Palestinian Authority infighting or Hamas spoilers, and Blair's personal access can unlock Gulf money and Washington patience. It ties ceasefire, hostages and withdrawal to an operational mechanism rather than abstract promises. It could fail because of a legitimacy deficit. Many Palestinians will view Blair as the wrong messenger, however tidy the message. If 5 years becomes 7, you are back to a crisis of trust. The UN one-year technocratic option will look cleaner and fairer. If Jerusalem withholds consent for a meaningful Palestinian Authority pathway, Arab capitals will not send troops or checks, and reconstruction without sovereignty becomes a holding pattern. Holding patterns in conflict zones decay into black markets and militia. One atrocity can unravel public consent faster than any communique can restore it. Kosovo and Timor-Leste are instructive but not absolute blueprints. Both had clearer end states and very different threat maps. Gaza's density, the tunnels, the proximity to a hostile border make classic international administration more brittle. Transitional missions succeed when the horizon is short, the police are locally rooted, and donors move money as quickly as they move press releases. Netanyahu's response in Washington will be something to watch out for. If he resists any irrevocable track to Palestinian Authority control, the plan is pure theatre and nothing more. The Arab conditions from Riyadh and Amman on sequencing statehood, the steps that must be followed, that is again something to watch. If they harden around the UN one-year model, GITA will need to compress its timetable or just get out of the picture. Blair's own language, his office has so far avoided comment, beyond prior insistence on no forced displacement, is interesting. If he publicly accepts a strict sunset clause and Palestinian Authority primacy, he gains ground. As for the UN-US choreography, if Washington can unfold UN's New York Declaration into the GITA frame, you get legitimacy and logistics in the same package. If not, expect dueling blueprints. The idea is not absurd. Gaza needs a credible reward for a painfully short transition with money, muscle and legitimacy, but personalities are not substitutes for content. If Blair is to be no more than a lightning rod, 3 conditions are non-negotiable: a short, dated sunset written into the mandate, a real transfer to a reformed Palestinian Authority after elections, and an Arab-anchored security presence that supports local policing rather than rules in its place. Without those, GITA risks looking like a better-dressed version of the status quo. With them, it might, just might, give Gazans the space to breathe, rebuild, and vote.